It's a cold January morning in 1896. The sleepy village of East Peckham, England. The air is still. The streets are quiet until the silence is shattered. A rogue machine tears through the high street. It is a beast of iron and oil, roaring with a terrifying mechanical thunder. Pedestrians freeze. Horses rear up in panic. The driver, a man with a wild look in his eye, is pushing his vehicle to its absolute physical limit. He is breaking the law, he is endangering the public, and he is moving at a velocity that the local authorities deemed insane. A police constable spots the maniac. He doesn't have a radio, he doesn't have a squad car. He grabs his bicycle, grits his teeth, and pedals for his life. A high-speed chase ensues. The distance closes. The tension mounts. Finally, the long arm of the law catches the fugitive. The crime, going 8 miles per hour. Yes, you heard me correctly. 8. The speed of a brisk jog. But on January 28, 1896, this wasn't a joke. It was a scandal. This is the story of Walter Arnold, the man who earned the world's very first speeding ticket, and in doing so, accidentally started a war that is still being fought on our highways today. But this isn't just a story about a ticket. It's a story about why you are allowed to drive a car at all. To understand why doing 8 miles per hour was treated like a felony, we have to step into the mindset of Victorian England. We are in the late 19th century. The Industrial Revolution has already changed the world with steam trains and massive factories. But the roads still belonged to the horse. Enter the Locomotive Acts, specifically the Red Flag Act of 1865. The British government was terrified of self-propelled vehicles. They saw them as exploding death traps that would massacre livestock and terrify the population. So, they passed a law that sounds like pure fiction today. If you wanted to drive a road locomotive, 3 things had to happen. First, you needed a crew of 3 people. Second, your speed limit was capped at 2 miles per hour in towns and 4 miles per hour in the country. And third, most absurdly, a man had to walk 60 yards ahead of your vehicle, waving a red flag to warn people that a monster was coming. Think about that. The law literally required a car to move slower than a human being can walk. It was a law designed not to regulate cars, but to kill them. It was a legislative stranglehold meant to protect the railway monopolies and the horse breeders. But by 1896, the world was changing. In Germany and France, engineers like Carl Benz were building sleek, light, petrol-driven carriages. They were the future. And in England, one man decided he was tired of walking behind a flag. Meet Walter Arnold. He wasn't just a joyrider. He was a pioneer. Based in East Peckham, Kent, Arnold was one of the first car dealers in the UK, importing Benz vehicles from Germany. He looked at these machines and saw freedom. The government looked at them and saw a threat. On that fateful January morning, Arnold made a choice. He climbed into his Arnold motor carriage, essentially a modified Benz Velo. It had a single-cylinder engine, roughly 1.5 horsepower. He fired up the engine. Chug, chug, chug. The smell of gasoline filled the air. And then, he did the unthinkable. He didn't hire a crew of 3. He didn't hire a man with a red flag. He put his foot down. He tore through the village of East Peckham, the wind in his hair, the vibration of the engine in his bones. He hit 4 miles per hour, then 6, then a staggering 8 miles per hour. He was traveling at 4 times the legal limit. To put this in perspective, if you did this today in a 30 miles per hour zone, you'd be doing 120 miles per hour. This wasn't just speeding. This was rebellion. But Arnold forgot one variable, the constable. A local police constable witnessed the violation. Now, usually the police were on foot. If Arnold had just kept going, he might have gotten away. But the 1890s had another technological boom happening simultaneously. The bicycle craze. The constable jumped onto his push bike. This is the moment history was made. The first high-speed police pursuit involved a man pedaling furiously to catch a car that was struggling to outpace a jogger. The chase lasted for 5 miles. 5 miles. Can you imagine the scene? The constable, sweating, legs burning, shouting, "Stop in the name of the Queen!" And Walter Arnold, looking back, realizing that the internal combustion engine was about to lose a race to a pair of human legs. Eventually, whether by mechanical failure or just guilt, Arnold pulled over. The constable wrote down his details. The charge: using a locomotive without a horse, operating with fewer than 3 persons, and, crucially, traveling at a speed greater than 2 miles per hour. The trial was swift. The magistrates at Tunbridge Petty Sessions looked at Arnold like he was an alien. They found him guilty on all counts. His punishment? A fine of 1 shilling, plus costs. Now, you might be thinking, 1 shilling? That's nothing. And you'd be right. In today's money, that's roughly £5 or $7. But here is the twist. The fine wasn't the point. Arnold wanted to be caught. Why would a businessman want a criminal record? Because Walter Arnold knew that for the law to change, it had to be broken, publicly. The story of the 8 miles per hour madman hit the press. It highlighted the utter absurdity of the Red Flag Act. It made the British government look like dinosaurs holding back the tide of progress. The public, and more importantly, powerful lobbyists, began to ask, why is Britain lagging behind? It worked. Less than a year later, in late 1896, the government caved. They passed the Locomotives on Highways Act. The red flag was abolished. The speed limit was raised from 2 miles per hour to a blistering 14 miles per hour. To celebrate, motoring enthusiasts organized a massive parade, the Emancipation Run, from London to Brighton. It is a tradition that continues to this day, the longest-running motoring event in the world. And who was there driving in that first run? Walter Arnold. That 1 shilling fine bought the British automotive industry its future. It paved the way for Aston Martin, Jaguar, McLaren, and the Mini. But it also birthed something else. Walter Arnold was the first. But today, over 40 million speeding tickets are issued annually in the US alone. That lonely constable on a bicycle has been replaced by speed cameras, radar guns, and police helicopters. When we look back at Walter Arnold, it's easy to laugh at 8 miles per hour, but innovation always looks dangerous to the status quo. Whether it's cars in 1896 or AI and space travel today, there is always a red flag act trying to slow it down. And there is always a Walter Arnold pushing the pedal to the metal. He didn't just break the speed limit. He broke the barrier between the past and the future. So the next time you see a flash in your rearview mirror, or you glance at your speedometer, spare a thought for the man from East Peckham, the man who paid 1 shilling so the world could move fast. I want to hear from you in the comments below. If the speed limit was still 2 miles per hour today, how would your life change? Would we be better off, or would society collapse? Let me know. If you enjoyed this ride through history, crush that subscribe button like Walter Arnold crushed the speed limit. I've pinned links in the comments and the first pinned comment to books about the early days of motoring if you want to dive deeper. Thanks for watching, and drive safe.